Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Muhammad Salim Iqbal, Assistant Professor of Surgery, Deputy Controller Examination, Faisalabad Medical University, Faisalabad. Today, I am going to discuss an important topic of damage control surgery. Damage control surgery is accepted method of minimal surgical management of unstable trauma patient. It is designed to prioritize short-term physiological recovery over anatomical reconstruction in seriously injured and compromised patient. It is defined as tailoring the process according to physiology of patient and doing definitive surgery later on to prevent physiological exhaustion. Basic principles are control hemorrhage, prevent infection, and nothing else. It comprises of damage control resuscitation, damage control surgery in field hospital, damage control surgery of moribund. First, I am going to discuss about damage control resuscitation. If we follow this approach in trauma, it decreases the incidence of acute respiratory distress syndrome by 25 to 9% in ICU. Principles of damage control resuscitation are permissive hypotension till control of bleeding with or without damage control surgery. Number 2, limit crystalloid and colloid use as it can cause dilutional coagulopathy and crystalloids cause neutrophil activation and increased inflammation. Then anticipate and treat acute traumatic coagulopathy with transfusion of FFPs, platelets, cryoprecipitates and packed red blood cells. Avoid hypothermia if ongoing bleeding and anticipated need of massive transfusion in patient, that is more or equal to 10 units in 24 hours, then activate massive transfusion protocol. The principle is to transfuse by the ratio of 1, 1 and 1. That means 1 pint of platelets, 1 pint of plasma and 1 pint of packed red blood cells. FFP is also given as 6 units for every 6 units of packed red blood cells. Largest benefit in mortality when FFP and platelets are administered during first 6 hours of admission. Traditionally, the concept of early and aggressive fluid administration has been applied to all the trauma patients in order to restore circulating blood volume and maintain tissue perfusion. However, this treatment approach may increase hydrostatic pressure in injured vessels, dislodge hemostatic blood clots, induce dilutional coagulopathy and results in hypothermia. To prevent all these effects, the concept of permissive hypotension was introduced. That means systolic blood pressure of less than 100, and it refers to managing trauma patients by restricting the amount of fluid resuscitation administered while maintaining blood pressure in the lower normal range if there is still active bleeding during the acute period of injury. Now little about damage control surgery in field hospitals. Damage control surgery in field hospitals is different from damage control surgery in moribund patients. Principles are to do minimum required management of patients so as to shift them to definitive facility. Secure airway by ETT tube or tracheostomy, hemorrhage control by pressure, laparotomy, craniotomy, thoracotomy or repair of major limb vessels. Prevent pressure buildup in closed compartments by burr hole, chest drains, laparotomy or fasciotomy. And then prevent infection by management of wounds by exposure or debridement. Now lastly about damage control surgery in moribund patients. The aim of damage control in moribund physiological exhausted patient is to stop patient from entering into the lethal triad of acidosis, coagulopathy and hypothermia. This is also called as triad of death. These are the patients who are near or into the lethal triad and therefore prolonged surgery will not be tolerated by them. Stages of damage control surgery. Damage control surgery is divided into 5 different stages. Stage 1 is patient selection. Irrespective of setting, a coagulopathy is the most common reason for abortion of a planned procedure or the curtailment of definitive surgery. It is important to abort the surgery before the coagulopathy becomes obvious and possibly irreversible. Briefly about indications for damage control surgery. These are divided into anatomical indications, physiological indications and environmental indications. In anatomical indications, inability to achieve hemostasis, complex abdominal injuries, combined vascular solid and hollow organ injuries, inaccessible major venous injury, demand for non-operative control of other injuries, example fractured pelvis, and anticipated need for a time-consuming procedure. Physiological indications are most common are fall in temperature, increase serum lactate level, increase in prothrombin time and partial thromboplastin time, more than 10 units blood transfused, systolic blood pressure less than 90 for more than 60 minutes. Environmental indications are operating time more than 60 minutes, inability to approximate the abdominal incisions, desire to reassess the intra-abdominal contents, direct relook. Stage 2 is operative hemorrhage and contamination control. The primary objectives are hemorrhage control, control of contamination, temporary closure of the abdomen. Stage 3 is physiological resuscitation in the ICU. Priorities in the ICU are restoration of body temperature, correction of the clotting profile, repletion of blood and its components, optimization of oxygenation of tissues, avoidance of abdominal compartment syndrome. Stage 4 is operative definitive surgery. The patient is returned to the operating theatre as soon as stage 3 is achieved, which should take place within 48 hours. The timing is determined by the indication for damage control in the first place, the injury pattern, the physiological response. It involves definitive surgery with points as shown above, inspection, identification of all the injuries, control of all bleeding points, careful removal of all previous packs. Definitive gastrointestinal and vascular repairs, thorough abdominal wash, radiography to rule out retained packs, drains to be inserted if required, feeding tubes if required, stomas and tube enterostomies should now be avoided, consideration for temporary or permanent abdominal wall closure. Stage 5 is abdominal wall reconstruction. Once the patient has received definitive surgery and no further operations are contemplated, then the abdominal wall can be closed. In this lecture, I tried to cover basic concepts of damage control surgery. Hope so you enjoyed. For more learning, please subscribe my channel. Take care, stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.